Hi, everyone, and welcome to the first week, the content in our healthcare ethics class, where our theme for this YouTube lecture is respect for persons. So hopefully by now you've had a chance. If you have not, please watch the intro video. It sort of explains how the course is going to run. And then every week I'm going to create definitely this content video, only going to be about 15 minutes long at the most, in a YouTube format, where I'm going to touch upon a number of themes. Of course, the video just stays up on the Blackboard site, so you can rewatch it if you'd like. We'll go back to it. I'll be referring to a few things in the Blackboard site, and then some upcoming things as well. So I'll always start off with sort of the stuff, if you will, or basically the stuff that you have during the week. So you have a reading, fairly short reading, literally looking at this theme of microaggressions on caregivers. And then you'll also see a documentary. It's the first documentary that you'll be watching. Really great, short, 15-minute YouTube video. I'll talk about it in a few minutes, called Keepers of the House. There's a case, also a short case, on the Blackboard site entitled The Prejudiced Patient. So this is all going to be connected to our theme of respect for persons. And there'll be a reflection, also a reflection survey that I'm going to ask you to do. As well. Finally, I think you know that you have, separate from this YouTube lecture, there's a quiz as well. The quiz is based on the Narrative Matters reading. And think about Friday at 5 p.m. as the due date for everything. You can certainly upload and submit stuff earlier, but Friday, 5 p.m. Central Standard Time is really the due date, because then we'll start our new content the next day on Saturday. Okay, so let me first introduce you to some of the ethics sub-themes. This theme, let me go back, respect for persons, is the first of 4 ethics themes that we'll be emphasizing in the course. It's a really important one in this field. But let's put it a little bit more into context. So as we talk about patients or individuals who are receiving care, I'm really hoping you can sort of decipher my writing. I'm going to talk through it. And this is just how I prefer doing it, if that's okay. When we talk about patients, anyone who receives care, all of you have been a patient, or let's say a recipient of care, even if it means receiving a prescription from a pharmacy. And some of you, of course, and your family members have received much more acute, much more intense care as well. There is a sense of vulnerability associated with all, if you're ever finding yourself in a patient environment. So when we talk about respect for persons and we talk about vulnerable patients, really there's one ethics sub-theme that stands out. And that's really this notion of autonomy, that to really respect individuals, we have to respect their ability to make choices. And that's what autonomy is. The ability to make choices in terms of their own care, their future care, to weigh in, even if they don't understand what's happening. Now, most of the time, we don't understand what's happening. We don't have the medical language necessary. We're not able to interpret test results. We know how we feel. We know how a loved one is feeling, or perhaps a kid feels, which is usually bad. But it still doesn't take away the opportunity to make choices or to be involved in one's care. And that's really how, respect for persons or respecting respect for persons comes into play by really honoring the ability of individuals to make choices. And those choices could have simple responses like yes. It could also be no. No, I don't want to go any further with this. No, I'm not interested in receiving that type of care. But to really honor this. Now, honoring it is one thing, as long as the individual, the patients, have the full information, because it's hard to make a choice without full information, even if we cannot understand and interpret everything. And so I'm going to keep emphasizing throughout these 4 weeks this idea of autonomy. It will actually keep showing up when we talk about the idea of decision making, which is even more important when all the facts aren't available, when individuals feel vulnerable, but because it's the ultimate way to respect individuals. Now, I'm going to shift gears a little bit and introduce you to this documentary. So perhaps what I would recommend is after you go through this YouTube lecture, then you can watch the documentary, although my guess is some of you already watched it. This was, it's entitled Keepers of the House. And the idea behind it's a play on words. Within a hospital environment, the traditional, although it's changed, traditional word for individuals who clean every aspect are housekeepers. Today, we might refer to them as environmental services employees or workers. But you can tell that from the term housekeeper, you can get the idea keepers of the house, although this phrase, keepers of the house, means a little bit more, has a greater context than just cleaning. It might even involve those who sort of oversee or partly own a hospital or house. This takes place at Duke Hospital and Duke Regional Hospital in Durham, North Carolina. It was done just before the pandemic. And it's really a series of interviews with real housekeepers. And what is amazing about this and the team that did it is, first of all, as maybe some of you can guess, housekeepers, cleaning staff, environmental service, whatever we want to call them, in any part of our society, have a different role. Within a healthcare institution, within a hospital, like any organization, you have a hierarchy. Now, I always spell the word hierarchy wrong, so I'm going to just give it a shot here. Oh gosh, this is how I spell, right? If I don't want you to figure out that I can't spell it, hierarchy, basically a top down from, let's say, the individuals who are in charge or those in a position of power to many other individuals with limited power or don't make a lot of decisions. Housekeepers tend to fall at the bottom. This also equates to pay standards, how much we pay individuals. Housekeepers in almost all institutions fall at the bottom. At the University of Southern Indiana, our environmental service, our cleaning staff, our custodians work 3 different shifts. Most of you, if you are in buildings, if you reside in residence halls, if you go to certain areas, you won't see them. They clean the bathrooms, they clean everything else. They're also the lowest paid individuals. So with that, this documentary was developed to really illuminate, to shine a light on the relationships that housekeepers have with patients. Now, what's interesting in a hospital is the housekeepers have to clean rooms. Now, they certainly clean areas and rooms, but let's just talk about patient care rooms when they're empty. But they will also always do it when there are individuals, patients in those rooms. And what you'll hear is a number of amazing stories about how these housekeepers interact in a very non-threatening way with patients and families. In the heart, sort of in the beginning of COVID, there was an immediate differentiation between essential and non-essential workers. And this story came out on the web. And in fact, the documentary Keepers of the House was mentioned in it, about an individual who really had a bond with the housekeeper. This is actually the story right here. The housekeeper, in fact, really, I don't even think she spoke English, or if she did, it was she wasn't by no means fluent in English, but the interactions that they had, because this individual was in the room and the patient couldn't leave for days and days and days, but the room had to be cleaned. So the housekeeper would come in, clean the rooms. And the emotional support that the housekeepers, especially during COVID, the connection they had with individuals, patients, they were sometimes the only non-clinical communication that these patients had. So what I'd like you to do, I'm interested in you doing, is I'm going to go back here and really ask you to think about a couple things as you are watching this documentary, and feel free to watch it a couple times. What story specifically stood out to you, and why, out of all the stories that are told? And one of the aspects that's highlighted in Keepers of the House is this idea of noticing, and how the housekeepers tend to be excellent at noticing, as opposed to just running around and doing their job. They notice, and what I'm talking about is noticing the individual, maybe what's happening. Now, again, they're not there to provide therapy, we know that. Clinical care, we know that. And yet they are part of the team as well that interacts with these patients. And I would argue that probably one of the more important parts, because they see the individuals and the families many different times. But I'm going to ask you to really identify two things. What specific story in Keepers of the House stood out to you, and why? And how is the idea of noticing emphasized in this documentary? I'd like you to sort of summarize that just in your notes or your device, because it'll come back as well. Okay, so the last thing that I'd like to touch upon is the case. The case, it's a very short case. It's called The Prejudiced Patient. It really emphasizes the notion of respect for persons, but from a clinician or a physician's perspective. I'm going to use the term provider. Provider is a term that's used in our healthcare system today to mean sort of lead clinicians. So physicians, oh my God, I'm spelling that wrong. Physician, certainly the nurses that are caring for the individuals. But if I interchange the term physician and provider, that's what they mean. So in this case, we have Dr. Sims, who is really substituting for one of his colleagues, Dr. Chen. Dr. Sims is an African-American physician, and he sees Miss Smith, who is an African-American woman. And so what I'm going to ask you to do is look at the case. It's not very long, and there'll be some reflection questions that really pertain to this case. And at the same time, the reading that you're tasked to read as well, that elements of that reading can be incorporated into your reflection. Okay, so let me summarize, what we talked about today. This theme was respect for persons, and within it, there's a reading. The documentary Keepers of the House is involved, and a case, which is the prejudiced patient as well. So the idea of respect for persons connects to not only patients who are vulnerable, but also providers, physicians, nurses as well. And that respect, can be damaged, altered. It's vulnerable because of the healthcare environment. Certainly, as we think about patients and respect for persons, we focus on this theme of autonomy, the ability to make choices. And that's ultimately how respect can be shown to patients during a care episode. At the same time, there's this introduction to this pretty neat documentary, Keepers of the House, where we look at what's regarded as probably the lowest on the hierarchy, employee classification, but those who make an impact that is often undocumented. It is not highlighted. I think about, my guess is many of you have seen or are fans of Grey's Anatomy or used to be, and, Grey's doesn't really emphasize any other healthcare staff except really for physicians, maybe some nurses or some others, but nobody else. And so, but this is more in the reality. And then the last part that we talked about was really this case, which I'm going to ask you to review, and then also think about the article to review as well. And then your reflection comes after. So that is really sort of an example of the YouTube lecture. Hope it wasn't too confusing for you. Let me know if you have any questions, please. And otherwise, we'll just keep moving on. Thanks very much, folks. Bye.